my logo. If I could show it to you guys. I don't know how to use this thing though. Nope. Nope. So the new logo has a lot of symbolism, which I was hoping to show you guys. Can you guys see that? So this is kind of like the new logo for the channel, and it has a bunch of different parts. So first of all, y'all see like that, the circle around. It's based on this Japanese concept called enso. Enso is like a special type of calligraphy that was usually done by Zen Buddhist monks, where they would draw like a circle. Okay, I don't know who Canyon is, but I'll check that out. So this part around here, the circle on the outside, is Enso. It's kind of influenced by Enso, but I want to talk about the like where Enso comes from. So, man, let me get some paper or something. Ha, I got it. So Enso, find like a pen. Enso is usually what would happen is Zen Buddhist monks, they do this exercise where they try to do this circle in one breath. And so they would start at the bottom here and kind of squish their pen, and then they would take one breath and they would go. Something like that. And they would try to draw this perfect circle. So, yeah, this is Muslims of Japan. Salam alaikum. So they would draw these circles like this, kind of in one breath. And it could mean a lot of different things. It could mean if they close the circle, they would say that all things, there is no beginning, there is no end. If they didn't close it, they would say it represents the impermanence of life. Some would say, this encompasses everything in life, whatever. The whole thing is that actually the meaning was left to be openly interpreted. So there was no set meaning, and people could make the meaning whatever they wanted to. And so what I wanted to do was, well, if you guys aren't going to set the meaning of this enso, then I thought I would reinterpret it for Japanese Muslims. And instead of starting at the bottom, if you notice we started at the bottom here, instead of starting at the bottom, I thought, you know what, why don't we start at the top? And now that I think about it, we should have gone the other way. So I think I'm going to redo the logo again. But what we do is we start at the top, kind of squish it down. Because we come from Allah, and to Him is our return. And I crossed it over at the top because in Islam, we have a beginning and an end. In Zen Buddhism, they might say something like, it's all an illusion, there is no beginning, there is no end. But we know that there is a beginning and there is an end. And so instead, the circle comes to represent our journey from Him back to Him. And I crossed over the edge to say that we do have a distinct beginning and a distinct end. And I think I'm going to switch directions, because when I think about it, the direction of Tawaf around the Kaaba is the other way. So I think I would like this way. So if you notice on the inside you'll see the, my pen's running out of ink. You'll see this symbol here. There's like two squares inside of each other. This is actually a kanji that stands for, well, in Japanese we read it as mawaru, or the Chinese reading kai. which is the first character of two characters that are kind of like the traditional way to say Islam, or Islamic religion in Japanese. So the outside box says Kai, and the inside says Kyo. So it's the teaching of Kai, meaning the teaching of going around, which I think is kind of interesting. Islam in Japanese literally means the teaching of going around. Subhanallah. So in my mind, when I first saw this, actually, I wondered if perhaps they used this square kanji because it looks like the Kaaba. So I kind of like this idea of the tawaf, like going around, using the ensel to go around this square, which kind of looks like Kaaba. But it turns out that this Kai kanji just comes from the Chinese Muslims. So there was the Hui Muslims. The kanji for Hui is the same kanji. It just sounds different. They use a different sound. And in Chinese, it means return. So it's the teaching of returning. So the meaning of Islam, the kanji that they use, the characters that they use in Chinese is the teaching of return. And in Japanese, the same characters, kaikyo, means the religion or the teaching of going around. So I use that. And then if you see, here, I'll show you guys one more time. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, Yamamoto sensei is very, very interesting. His art's very good as well. Allahumma barik lahu. So if you see on the bottom half of this, I've used this kind of geometric pattern. Many people were asking me why I was using this geometric pattern and it didn't seem to fit. But this is actually a traditional Japanese pattern. So I'll show you here. I have a piece of cloth that has the same pattern. This is it's called tenugui. Tenugui is just it's a piece of cloth. I mean, we could use it to dry our hands. Many people, you can wear it on your head, for example. I'll show you guys. Kind of like a bandana. Like you could tie it like a bandana around your head. Tenugui, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can tie it as well. It's kind of, you can do whatever you want to with it, actually. So this pattern that you see here is called yagasuri. Well, there's two names. So one is yagasuri, and the other is yabane, just yabane moyo. Yabane is the feathers on an arrow. So if you look closely, solid snake. I don't even play games, and I know who that is. I don't know why. So this pattern, yagasuri, is supposed to be like the feathers on an arrow. So you're supposed to kind of see like the arrow shafts inside like, what do you call it? When you're carrying your arrows. Originally, this pattern was used by samurai, by warriors, during like the warring periods, during Sengoku Jidai, the warring periods in Japan. And they would wear it. And it has the meaning, in Japanese, we'd say, hanatta ya, the arrow that shot, wa modoranai, it doesn't return. So the arrow that is shot doesn't return, which is a concept that I think exists in a lot of cultures. I don't know if you guys have that in your culture as well. Wa alaikum salam. Jamil-san. So I took this idea of the meaning that's behind this sign, this yagasuri, which is supposed to look like arrows, is just that. It's the arrow that shot, doesn't return. And it was supposed to symbolize the commitment, for example, to the battle, to whatever it is that you're doing, to your jihad at that time. It could be on the battlefield or in life, but your commitment and your sincerity, you go straight forward, and the arrow that shot doesn't return. So later on in like more peaceful periods, they started using this. Instead of the warriors using it, it actually was the women that started using this pattern. And And during Edo period, they would put it on the kimono of their daughters when they got married, and they would send them out of the house. And it's the same idea that an arrow shot doesn't return. So they were kind of wishing them a happy marriage, a successful marriage, so they don't come back to the house when they got married. Later on in like Meiji and in current days, you'll often see this used on like girls' hakama or kimono, traditional clothing when they graduate, like when they graduate from well, either high school or university. It's the same idea, kind of a wish that they go on to be successful and they don't come back to the house, so the arrow that shot doesn't return. So I wanted to reinterpret this pattern for Japanese Muslims, and it maintains the same meaning. Hanatta ya wa modoranai. The arrow that is shot doesn't return. But this time, talking about Japanese Muslims after they have believed that they don't return back to disbelief. So that's the meaning behind this traditional Japanese pattern called Yagasuri. So the Yagasuri pattern, and it's kind of my plan. If I see you, I might actually give you one of these Yagasuri Tenugui. I kind of want to make it a thing. So that's why here on the new logo, you'll see the Yagasuri pattern. So that's what the meaning comes from. Let's see. So I got a question. Someone used to live in Sengakuji. Nice. That's pretty close to where I am, actually. Very cool. Wa alaikum salam. Yeah, it looks like you bought... What did you buy? Bought it from Itoigawa. Well, I mean, everything is intention. No, I'm not selling this. But if I see you, if you come visit me, I'll probably give you one. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you bought. This is going to Kim North. I'm not sure exactly what it is that you bought. You're probably, because what I'm thinking you're talking about is like that old thing from like Jomon period, like prehistoric Japan. And I don't think they're really sure what that means exactly, to be honest. I'm gonna have to look into that. I think the only problem you might run into is at the time, the spiritual beliefs of them, they believed in like rebirth. But again, they're not really super sure about what a lot of the stuff from the Jomon period means. So it could be a non-issue. I can look into it more for you, but basically, I think you can be pretty comfortable that no one actually knows for sure what any of that stuff means from the Jomon period. So you're not affiliating yourself with any specific belief, and you can reinterpret it how you would like, I'm sure. But I can look into that a bit. That could be interesting. Let's see. So that's the logo. So it says Kaikyo, which is the Japanese word for Islam. It has the reinterpreted version of Enso to mean that we come from him and we return to him, and using the Yagasuri pattern with the meaning Hanatta ya wa modoranai, the arrow that is shot doesn't return. So let's see. Let's take some questions. I'll take some questions. So just starting here, have I ever been to Germany? No, but I hear really good things. I have a lot of friends who are actually thinking about moving to Germany because the pay in Japan isn't so great anymore. So they're talking about moving to Germany. So there's a lot of people there. Let's see. Yeah, information about customs in Japan. Yeah, there's a lot of need for more understanding of fiqh here in Japan, and we do need our own we need our own scholars. So I really think for Islam to move forward in Japan, we need our own scholarship for people who understand the culture on a very deep level, to start giving fatwa in Japan with a full understanding of the culture here. So one of the big goals of the channel actually is I want the channel to become kind of an engine that will allow me to at least start funding projects like starting an actual Japanese style masjid. I was inspired a lot by a lot of the masajid I saw in China, Indonesia, Malaysia that use traditional like Chinese building techniques. I'd love to do that with Japan. I think it would make people a lot easier for people to accept Islam and not see Islam as a foreign invading force, but see it more as the future of Japan. So yeah, one of the big goals of doing that, however, and one of the big goals of this channel is eventually to find ways to support and fund the next generation of scholarship. Because without that, it's just going to be very difficult. Let's see what other questions we got. Yes, Mirafu-san. Mirafu, yeah, I got the comments about Maulid. So if any of you guys watched the last video that I put up, I had an experience that happened to be on Maulid. So I didn't want to make Maulid the point of the video. That really wasn't my intent. I don't like talking about topics that are ikhtilaf. And I know by saying that, people who are of the, well, I don't even know what that term means, but of the Salafi persuasion will say it doesn't count as being ikhtilaf if it's not an issue that wasn't talked about by the pious predecessors. However, there's a lot of issues that come up in modern society that, of course, obviously, the Sahaba didn't deal with, our pious predecessors did not deal with, and they are ikhtilaf issues. I don't like talking about those too much on the channel, and I don't want to debate about them on the channel either. If it's ikhtilaf, my opinion is just choose a scholar that you agree with and follow them, and then just keep your opinion to yourself. Scholars don't spend time on YouTube. You're not going to find a scholar in the YouTube comments. So if we're talking to each other on YouTube comments, I guaranteed neither of us are qualified to really be talking about those topics. So when it comes to my opinion on large issues like that, anything that's ikhtilaf, I just keep my opinion to myself and I don't make it publicly known. My video about my experience that I had on the Maulid was incidental. I had an experience where my heart kind of opened up to salawat, and it was on Maulid, which is incidental. We were participating in a da'wah convention that just happened to be on the weekend of Maulid. So it's not really the point of the story, and I don't really want to make it part of the story, if that's okay. So I hope you can understand. I do understand people when they want to have a strong sense of wara, have a strong sense of, being careful against bid'ah, against things that might be impermissible, to avoid the gray zones, to avoid things that might be harmful. So I can respect that, and that's totally fine. I just don't want to have a conversation on the channel. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that was a respectful way of putting it, inshallah. And yes, I'm half Japanese, so I confuse a lot of people with my looks. But I'm in Japan now. I live in Japan, and I'm half Japanese. I'm half American, half Japanese. My ancestors are originally from Kyushu, which is the most southernmost island in Japan. Yes. Let's see what else is there. Yesterday, I watched a movie with my mother. Was in Japanese. Oh, that's very interesting. Like wooden sandals. Is there a reason they were in Kosovo? Was that actually a Japanese influence? That's quite interesting. There are halal grocery shops. Yes. They are. So, the halal grocery shops in Japan, though, to be honest, if you're not Muslim already and you're not used to like the whole Muslim vibe, they're really hard to. If I was just a regular Japanese person, I'd be scared to walk into them. They look super out of place. And usually when you walk in, they've got the very like Muslim world market feel where it's just like stuff everywhere. They're just like packed to the ceiling with just like bags of rice and all these spices and all this stuff. And they're usually very narrow, like small spaces. Um, in recent years, some of the halal grocery shops have been set up to look a little bit more like modern and friendly and easy to walk into. Personally, I like I like that kind of old halal grocery shop vibe, but it does throw off like a lot of local Japanese. So yeah, Biz Islamic company in the UK. They train scholars and do all around the world. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, are you talking about? Man, there's so many questions. Da-da-dum. Oh wow, thank you so much from MYR San. That was very kind of you. Thank you for the. What is that? This is my first live, guys, so I'm super sorry, but I think MYR San sent me like a what do you call that? Like a dollar, 150 something. Oh, MYR, is that a Malaysian ringgit? I don't know. The problem is people associate Islam with brown people, and yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so James asked a very interesting question. He said, I noticed that in so many Japanese mangas I used to watch, they portray the afterlife the same as Muslims, where people are judged. The Japanese bring these ideas from Christianity? And the answer is no, actually. Um, so, uh, Japanese Japanese culture is actually quite interesting. So, when Japan took on Buddhism, and Buddhism is, originally obviously coming from India. In Buddhist teachings, technically there is no afterlife. The Buddha himself said that he doesn't want to tell people things about something that he doesn't know, and he didn't think it was possible for him to know exactly what would happen in the afterlife or after you died or any of this stuff. If there was a God, if there wasn't a God. So he himself said he's not a prophet. He doesn't have access to this information. So the teachings of Buddhism say nothing on the concept of God. There's actually a famous story that says, he said a parable. I used to be Buddhist, by the way. So I was born Buddhist and I reverted to Islam a little over a decade ago. I'm not sure the exact date. Uh, so I was Buddhist and I grew up in a Buddhist temple. So that's why I'm talking about Buddhism right now. I am Muslim now, alhamdulillah. But anyways, there's a parable in Buddhism about a man that's shot with a poisoned arrow. And he says the questions to ask if you're shot with a poisoned arrow, you shouldn't be asking questions like, oh, well, who made the arrow? And which direction was the arrow shot from? And who do you think, shot the arrow? And because these questions, by the time that you've been shot with a poisoned arrow. By the time that you get all the answers to these questions, it won't matter because the poison from the arrow will have killed you. So the only question that matters is, what poison did he use? That's the only question that matters. And so the Buddha in that parable said that we should be asking how to end suffering in life. which is kind of interesting because he's kind of on the mark but kind of missed it at the same time. And I guess that just goes to show the power of prophetic teaching. We having prophetic teaching as a human being, the farthest, let's say in Buddhism, as a Buddha, without divine revelation, as a human being, you can get as far as the Buddha, let's say, in terms of your spiritual growth, your spiritual, like where you are with your, your spiritual level. As a human on your own power, that's as far as you can get. And beyond that, you can't do it on your own. You need divine help. So what's interesting about Japan is I think that Japan kind of understood that. Because when Buddhism came to Japan, Japan invented their own type of Buddhism called Jodo Shu. And then after it, Jodo Shinshu, which means Pure Land Buddhism, or like the true Pure Land Buddhism. So I grew up as a Jodo Shinshu practitioner. I grew up at a temple, Jodo Shinshu temple. My mom even worked at the temple in the office. So I was very, very involved with the temple. Jodo Shinshu says that we accept that. We can't, as human beings under our own power, we can only get to a certain level. And in order to get beyond that, we have to rely on some type of divine help. So Japanese Buddhism introduced this idea of self-power and other power, jiriki and tariki. Jiriki says we can't actually free ourselves of suffering and free ourselves out of this cycle of life and death and attain enlightenment without other power. So they invented this whole, to getting back to the question of James, this whole idea of an afterlife, and they made the Buddha, Amida Buddha, kind of a godlike figure. And they said that you have to rely on the power of the Amida Buddha to attain enlightenment or to be freed from this ocean, this life of birth and death. And I thought it was super easy. They even, in Jodo Shinshu, they even created something called the Nembutsu, which is something that you say that's basically means I take refuge in the Amida Buddha. And they say that if you say that even one time, that's enough to be saved. So subhanAllah, there's so many parallels in just the natural Japanese thought, the fitra of the Japanese people, and they created their own Buddhism. The world that they invented to explain what they thought reality, what spirituality looked like, is essentially Islam. Because it's in Islam, we say under our own power, we can't do anything. We must fully rely on Allah for our forgiveness. We must, and it's only through His forgiveness, through His power, that all things happen, that we are granted an afterlife. And interestingly, the potential in the simple phrase La ilaha illallah, that alone being able to save us is just something very interesting to me. Very interesting. Let's see. Wa alaikum salam. Man, many questions. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan. I thought this was going to be a very lonely chat, but alhamdulillah, there's many brothers and sisters watching. Thank you. So let's compare US to Japan. There's a lot of questions about US and Japan. Japan has higher taxes. Japan, but the thing is, I don't know. You're just richer in Japan, even if you don't make as much money. To have a decent life in America, you have to be rich. You have to make so much money just to live a normal life. I don't know how people do it, actually, to be honest. I mean, to anyone who lives in America, good job. I don't know how you do it. You have to make so much money just to live a normal life. Whereas in Japan, people talk about wages being lower or taxes being more expensive, but the life you can live on a small salary is so much better than a life you can live on a pretty good salary in America. If you just compare everything, my children have free education, they have free healthcare. My health insurance is expensive, but it basically takes care of everything. The public infrastructure is very, very well maintained. So transportation, just the ease of my life. Everything is close. Like literally from my house, it's like 2 minutes to the kids' school. It's like a minute to the supermarket, a minute to the drugstore, 2 minutes to the post office, a minute to, there's a bunch of like shops and fresh vegetable shops that support local farmers, and all these things that in America would be like organic and taking us like this premium price. I can just go and like buy super cheap from the farmers. So I don't know. Quality of life in Japan, to have a quality life in Japan is just, it's so much more realistic, even though on paper it doesn't look good. On paper, it says, low salaries, high taxes. I don't know. People complain a lot, but to be honest, I don't know how people do it in the US. I don't know. And in the US, there's more Muslims, but I think the people who hate Muslims are also much more intense. Japan, honestly, personally, I haven't really had any huge issues with being Muslim, like openly people being against me. Like, you're pretty good to practice your faith here. It's not, you're not under threat. What is my opinion on past life? The only past life I would have had was when I was a soul. And so if we met in the world when we were souls, we would have we might recognize each other in this life, but other than that, no, I don't. Unless, maybe Allah will tell us about past lives or something when we go to Jannah, Allahu Alam, I don't know, but there's nothing about that in the book or the Sunnah, so no past lives. Joe Smith, wa alaikum salam. Yeah, a lot of scholars did say that Buddha possibly believed in God. It's possible. That is kind of true. But he stayed silent because he didn't have, he wasn't a prophet. Yes, there is a purgatory concept. There is a purgatory concept, and there is an idea that even if you do end up in hell, and this is in Buddhist thought, in Japanese Buddhist thought, if you end up in hell, there's still the potential to be saved by the Amida Buddha. So, like I said, just the fitra of the Japanese people understood kind of what lacked in the original Buddhist teaching. This kind of added it. So I always say, just take one more step away. So they went from the traditional Theravada tradition, which evolved into more of a Mahayana tradition, borrowed some Chinese cultural things in it as well, but then just developed this entire world all on their own. So, yeah. Yes, adults have to pay for healthcare in Japan. So it's not like Germany or anything, yeah? I notice here in Texas, non-Muslims tend to appreciate honesty, simplicity, and dedication of Muslims. Are there any traits that Japanese appreciate in Muslims? If they take the time to get to know them, a lot of time Japanese who travel to Muslim lands, for example, for work or for study, notice the strong ties between family and community and friends. And those type of ties are things that Japan is really struggling with in the modern day. So I would say those things. When it comes to things like you said, honesty, simplicity, dedication, these are values that Japan already holds very deeply. So Japan sees those types of things as, we say, atarimae. Atarimae is a word in Japanese that means like, of course you should be doing that. Like, it's atarimae. Like, that's just the baseline. That's not an extra thing. That's not a good thing. That's, as a human being, if you're not doing that, something's wrong with you. This is atarimae. So living simply, being honest, being dedicated, these things that are part of Islam are part of the Japanese culture as well, so much to the point that it's atarimae. So unfortunately, some of the best parts of Islam are taken a bit for granted, like they're not seen as something special by Japanese. So the thing that I think they see the most is actually community. So if they ever have the opportunity to see community, to see how family life works, family structure works in Muslim families or in the Islamic world, I think that's the thing that probably sticks with people the most. So if you ever meet a Japanese person who's even slightly interested in Islam, feed them lots of food, have them come meet the family, let them see the community and just feel the love. You don't even have to preach the religion. Just show them what a Muslim family looks like, and it should be enough, inshallah. Let's see. The divine reality. Yeah, I'll be sure to check that out. I have a huge backlog of books right now. I need to get to it. And yeah, guys, really, thank you so much. Agim Hoti said, I wish I could give you money too, but I only have some euros in my bank account. Please, it's okay. In the future, inshallah, of course, I appreciate your support of the channel now, but in the future, I'll have more official projects set up, inshallah. Like I told you, I want to build a Japanese style masjid. I want to start funding scholarship to help young Japanese Muslims go and study knowledge overseas and bring that back to Japan. So I have a belief, when something like the genocide that's happening now in Gaza, in Palestine, even in Sudan, you start to see that the way Japan is set up right now, the media is government controlled, and Japanese government is controlled by American government. And the strategy that was taken here to control the minds of the Japanese people just was distraction. The Japanese people themselves, very few of them hold strong beliefs about anything politically, to be honest. If you turn on the TV or the news in Japan, it's distraction. The news is usually about food or about like some cool product or like some festival or it has nothing, there's no like news. People don't see what's happening in the world. And so the Japanese that do start seeing, what's happening in Gaza, for example, they see it on their Instagram account, they act, they give their time, their energy, their money to the cause. But if you're just watching TV, like Japanese TV, or looking at Japanese pop culture or whatever, you're being distracted. Most people don't even know what's happening in the world. So in the future, when we have these projects in Japan to create the Japanese masjid, to create the projects for scholarship, to create like a actual dawah center that's run by Japanese Muslims and not by foreigners, I really think that bringing Japan to Islam is really important. And it's also kind of like a shortcut to getting millions of people to start paying attention to a lot of the problems in the world. And I think that if Japan was less distracted and more focused on things that are happening in the world could actually be a better place, inshallah. So don't worry about, if you have, money now, it's okay. Like in the future, very near future, inshallah, I'll have more like official programs. And if you were willing to support that vision, I would really appreciate it at that time. But other than that, it's okay. It's okay. May Allah reward you for your intention. Let's see. Oh, great. Yasmin Sam. I have seen your comments often. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I watched your videos on children and prayer. You mentioned your interest in psychology. Ooh, any recommendations? Any tips on how to apply what you learn in real life? Books. So actually, I stopped buying books because I have a bad habit of buying books and then creating stacks and just like surrounding myself with stacks of books. So I try to read, especially when it comes to things like psychology, I'll stay online. Um, Recently, one of my favorite things to do is to, because now the AI is around, there's a lot of people who are using AI to organize medical research papers or organize, I forget the English, like people's their thesis from universities. And so when I'm talking about psychology, usually that's what I'll go to. I'll be reading someone's thesis online from like some random university or something, or I'll be reading like online papers or this type of research from different places. So books, I haven't read any super good books recently, have I? Not on philosophy or psychology. I haven't read anything super recently. Let me think about that. Maybe I'll make a video on books I thought really useful. As for practical advice for kids in praying, so intrinsic motivation, if you don't know what video Yasmin-san is talking about, she's talking about a video that I did about prayers, and there's something called SDT, which is self-determination theory, which is a very big thing in psychology, and it talks about what needs to happen in order for people to be intrinsically motivated. So I guess if we're talking about a practical thing in real life, I recently actually I sent I have kids, and I sent them to go spend some time with family in the US. And it was their first time kind of away from, their mom and dad, just with other family. And I said, this is going to be the first time in your life that I'm not around telling you what to do. I'm not going to be there, reminding you to, say your pleases and thank yous, to be polite, to have good manners. I'm not going to be there reminding you to pray or letting you know what time it is, or, what time the prayers are, or, if we're going to be late, or, ask you if you have your wudu or whatever. And so this is the first time ever in your entire life that your prayers are going to be between you and Allah. And when you come back home, I don't even want to know if you prayed or not. I don't want you to tell me, because I want that to be between you and Allah. It can be in your secret, and that secret is either going to be a good secret where you found out that actually you have a good relationship with Allah, where you're praying for Him and you're not praying for Dad. Or you're going to find out that, maybe I've been praying for Mom and Dad and I haven't really been praying for the sake of Allah, or haven't been praying for the sake of myself. And so we talked about this before they left, and I said, so I want you to take this trip as an opportunity to just reflect. What is your relationship with Allah? And your actions will answer that question for you. If you remember your prayers and you pray on your own, and you remember to be thankful, you remember to your manners. You still say Bismillah before you eat. You still Alhamdulillah when you're grateful for something. Then you will know where your heart is at, and you'll know what your relationship is with Allah. And so when you come home, I don't want to know about it. I don't want you to tell me about it. But I do want to make sure we reflect on it. So my kids went. They came back. When they got back, I said, I don't want to know, but we had a time to sit down and just ask them just to reflect. I don't want you to tell me whether you prayed or not, but I want you to just sit down and think about it. Did you remember? And whether you did or you didn't, either way, you've learned kind of like a lesson. So I guess that's kind of like a real life application of how you might try to help kids reflect a little bit and build a sense of intrinsic motivation. I don't know if that was helpful, inshallah. Wow, thank you. I got a from Jamil Jawar. Jazakumullah khairan. That is very, very kind of you. Yeah, jazakum khairan. It's very kind of you. I actually, if you've noticed, I haven't been putting up videos because I've been struggling with equipment recently. So, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's see, my family. What did my family think of me and my conversion after 10 years? So both, for anyone that knows my story, it was about 8 years before my wife converted. So it was a very difficult, long 8 years. Since that time, the only people to become Muslim, well, right now is my wife and my 2 children, alhamdulillah. At the very beginning, our parents were obviously more against it. But now I think it's gotten to the point where, we can both honestly say to our parents that this is the happiest we've ever been in our lives. I can say that to my parents, my wife can say it to her parents. And when it comes to mothers, especially our mothers, they can see it as well. We're just happier. My mother, who was recently, she was staying with us, she said to me, you and your wife, you guys have something that I think a lot of people spend their entire lives looking for. I think you guys are content, and I can see that you're content. And that sounds like a simple thing, but if Islam is what did that for you, then I'm happy for you, and I support you. So, small step, but big step as well. I think that's where we are right now. At the beginning, there was a lot more people very, very against it. But right now, I think both of our mothers, especially, are very supportive. So please make dua. May our mothers, for any other reverts out there, may our families accept Islam. Yeah, I ask you for your dua. Let's see, Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk. Yeah, Sheikh Uthman, when I first reverted, he was running a channel on, what was it? It was like Masjid Ribat, I think, or something like that. Masjid, something like that. And he was doing, at that time, the most practical videos on YouTube. So the most practical videos on like how to pray, on if we should be raising our hands, and giving all of the dalil, on why we should sit like this or not sit like this. At the time, it was a huge, huge, huge benefit to me. So I always, Sheikh Uthman always has a very special place in my heart. He kind of opened my eyes to how specific scholarship is, and how important knowledge is, and how important being able to understand where the dalil for every single thing that you say comes from, and how we kind of have a responsibility to make sure we're not talking about things we don't know what we're talking about. So he definitely has a special place in my heart. However, I don't think Japan needs people like him, because that type of da'wah in Japan really will put people off. It's really, really off-putting. The debating, for example, and actually doing like street da'wah, even without Islam or anything, like this type of behavior just doesn't exist in Japanese culture to begin with. So just that behavior itself, for example, debating, openly debating or trying to tell someone about your beliefs, it just doesn't exist in Japanese culture. So whether it's Islam or not doesn't have anything to do with it. The act of debating itself is just something that doesn't exist in the culture. It's seen as foreign, and it's seen as very off-putting. So, I hear rumors that Sheikh Uthman is also coming to Japan next year. So if anyone knows his team, I would love to get in touch with him. I do have a lot of love for the Sheikh. As I mentioned before, early on, like he was on the channel Masjid. If anyone knows the channel, Masjid Ribat or something like that. yeah, it was very. He has very beneficial videos on there, very practical videos, just on like, especially for reverts, really going into depth about how to pray and like what all the evidences are for what you should be doing. So I have in my mind a huge debt that I would love to pay back to him. He's been very beneficial to him. May Allah bless him. But if anyone knows him, please introduce us, because I'm actually kind of afraid he's going to do street style da'wah in Japan, and I think a lot of the benefit he could bring to Japan might be lost. So if anyone knows, please introduce us. That'd be great. Yeah, I would love to help him, or at least help his team come up with a plan to make his time in Japan more beneficial. Yeah, population percentage change. So yeah, in Japan, the only Muslims are still by far a very, very small subgroup, a very, very small minority, but there is significant growth amongst that minority, and there is a lot of room. When you look into the future of Islam, there's definitely, the numbers point to Islam growing more and more in Japan. A lot of this comes from immigration. So it's not like Japanese people themselves have started reverting to Islam in droves. There has been an uptick, of course, but we're talking about an uptick of like a couple more hundred people every year. We're still talking in like the hundreds of levels, not even the thousands levels. So, yeah. Yeah, hey, thank you guys so much. Get in the van, kids. Jazakumullah khairan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Oh yeah, Yasmin-san. Yeah, I overthink about what to talk to my kids a lot. So, yeah, yeah. Oh, David Bibi-san. Jazakumullah khairan. Yeah, Sheikh Ahmed, Mayano Sensei, he's on Umrah right now. So if you jump on Instagram, you can probably see him giving a tour to some group around Medina at the moment. Yeah, inshallah, I can join him next year. Inshallah, that'd be great. I love this quote, Agim Hoti. Wisdom is acquired in three ways. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. Yes. Yes. Sometimes I wonder if I got any wisdom from experience, or if it counts, because I have a lot of bitter experiences. Yes, I wish I had had a little more wisdom gained from reflection and imitation. But it's a beautiful quote. Right. Okay. All right, guys. So the kiddos are starting to wake up and move around a bit. So maybe I'll just take maybe two more questions. And then I think I'm going to call it for today. Wrap it for today. Any more questions? Did I get everything? Shintoism and Buddhism are two biggest religions in Japan right now. Yes and no. In Japan, it's like, well, what is Shintoism and what is Buddhism? They've just been kind of integrated into the culture so much. People say they're Shinto or say that they're Buddhist, but they don't really understand, for example, what that actually means. Like, they don't know the actual teachings or the actual deep meanings. It's more of a cultural thing, kind of like being a cultural Muslim. They're cultural Buddhists or cultural Shintoists. Yeah. Confucianism. So Confucianism had a huge influence on, now that you're bringing that up, Agim Hoti-san, thank you very much, had a huge influence on Japanese culture even today. If you look at like the social hierarchy that's such a big deal in Japan, that all comes originally from Confucian teachings. So a lot of Confucian teachings are even more purely held on to in Japan than I would argue even in China. It had a huge influence. Whether people realize it or not, a lot of the value systems in Japan come from Confucianism. So very interesting. Basho. Do I read poetry? Yes, but I'm not going to pretend to be like a poetry expert. Yes, I have read some basho, and they are very reflective. So poetry and Japanese culture kind of go hand in hand. And then when we start talking about the Zen Buddhist influence on poetry, they get ultra reflective. So Zen practices basically, if I was to summarize what Zen Buddhism says, it usually says just to focus on one practice, one thing intensely, and simplify, and find enlightenment that way. One of the ways people do it, some people do it by sitting, which is a type of meditation. Other people's do it through poetry or through questions that are asked by a Zen master. So Zen influence on poetry in Japan is very, very deep, and the reflective nature of that, I think, echoes a lot of poetry you might see from, I guess what people would call like the Sufi poets, even though that is a very loaded word these days, and who knows what Sufi is, man. But yes, poetry on the cherry blossoms, impermanence, fleeting beauty. Yeah, 100%, I'm with you. I think Japan, and actually the Japanese language and the Arabic language, and this isn't my opinion, are considered by many scholars in language and whatnot to be some of the great literary languages when it comes to poetry. So there is definitely, I think, a shared love in the cultures for poetry. From Jamil Sam. Someone who wants to migrate from the US to Japan, what would you suggest if you don't mind me asking? Yeah, well, I guess I would ask what your intentions are in Japan. It's difficult. So Japanese culture is difficult because the quiet part is never said out loud, and it's not just about learning a new language. So the Japanese language, depending on the study, is between 60 and 80% contextual, meaning that the meaning of what's being said is entirely dependent on context. Japan is known as a high context, Japanese is known as a high context language. Japanese culture is a high context culture, which means that meaning is taken from context, which could be based on shared history, shared religion, some type of shared understanding. So what that means is if you study, for example, the Japanese language and you learn 100% of the words, 100% of the grammar, you still run a very high chance of only understanding about 20 to 40% of the conversation. And what this does is, for a lot of foreigners that move to Japan, it means that they really struggle with interpersonal relationships. They struggle making friends. They struggle connecting with the community. They struggle with a lot of things. Foreigners that seem to do well usually do well because they've joined some type of group or a club activity, something that forces them to meet with a lot of Japanese people. And most of them will say that they had a rough couple years where they made a lot of mistakes. But after you've lived in Japan for about a decade, you'll start to understand it and appreciate it, and then it becomes difficult to live anywhere else in the world. If you wanted to migrate from the US to Japan, you could do it. I would always question your intentions. If you do come here, you have to come here, I think, with the intention of doing da'wah. Because whether you come to Japan with that intention or not, and of course, I'm not even talking Islamically. Islamically speaking, yes, if you're going to come live in a non-Muslim country, you definitely should come with the right intentions. But whether you have that intention or not, you will do da'wah here. Every time that someone sees you or you speak to someone, you will represent every other Muslim in the world through your actions, through your words, through your character. And it's very difficult. You can't have a day off. And so in that way, I think it's a huge responsibility. Are there great things about living in Japan? Yes. Alhamdulillah, I'm not rich in money, but I'm rich in life. Alhamdulillah. And a lot of that has to do with being in Japan. So yeah, being Muslim in Japan ain't that bad. I don't think so. But I do think it does come with a very big responsibility. You can't really have an off day. When you go outside, you just always have to be smiling because you don't know who's looking. So I guess my advice would be, if you want to migrate US to Japan, make sure you have a job before you get here. Make sure you have your visa figured out before you get here. If you can have a company help you figure out a place to live and your phone and all that stuff, it's worth the money. Just pay for it. And I would just keep your mouth closed about talking about things or your opinions or what you think Japan should or should not do for at least 10 years. It takes a very long time to understand, more than I think most people really understand. Yes. Kitamura-san's debate about Muslim immigration. You're not the first person to mention that to me. I have not been watching the news. So, something you should know about me is I turn off news and all social media for many days at a time, and I kind of block myself off. And then after I feel like I'm in a good place, I'll come back and I'll update myself. I'll look at, recently I'll even ask AI, I'll say, hey, can you find me the most important news concepts from the things in the news from the past week, summarize it, and then give me links to these articles or something. And then I'll just do that. So I don't watch the news every day. I don't, even though I'm doing YouTube, I don't actually watch social media. And if I do, I always have my suggestions are turned off. So when I open up something like YouTube or, something, actually that's all I have, it doesn't show me any suggestions. I only go there if I have something I specifically am looking for to watch or to learn. So I suggest this to everyone, although I know many people like to stay more up to date with news. So I will look into this. You're not the first person to mention this to me, that there was a debate about Muslim migration. So yeah, Jazakumullah khairan for the tip. I will look into that. And I was planning on checking out the news maybe today or tomorrow. So inshallah, I'll get to that. Okay. Yeah, Jamil-san. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Hope it was beneficial. If you do decide to come to Japan, if anyone decides to come to Japan, look me up. We'll go to Jumu'ah together or something. Okay, that's it. I think I'm going to wrap it up today. No more questions? You guys are good? Just some thumbs up or happy faces or hearts or something. This was really fun. Thank you guys for watching, and inshallah we can do it again. I know this was a bit random. I reached 10,000 subscriptions. So thank you to everyone for your support of the channel. Inshallah we can make it actually beneficial, do some big things in the future together, inshallah. So let's do another one of these at 20,000. Or I don't know if you want me to do it earlier than that. I can do earlier. I don't know. Let me know. Leave a comment. Tell me to do a live if you want me to do another live. Let's do another one for sure around 20,000 subs though, inshallah. All right, I appreciate you guys. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallah fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.